impression the game you get out of it, what you put into it. It's like a walk of life. If you're good enough, go out and get it, no more about it.
Not so much control in the centre of the field from Kilkenny as Richie Bennett sends it high and over the bar.
Your mother sends you down to the shop for a pound's worth of goods and she gives you 50 pence. You can't get the pound's worth of goods, can you?
Just about kept in. Oh, well done, Shawnee Buckley. To do that to Tomas O'Shea, he deserves to score from here. One of the highlights of the Sunday game.
Limerick went out there from the word go today. No more about it. They made all the running, that was it. Put the ball over the bar and the back of it, and that's it. No ifs, no buts.
Is there much time left? We've had a couple of injuries. Here comes Kieran Carey. Carey leading the charge of the right brigade. 45 metres out. He's a chance to score. He's put it high. He's put it over.
There's no sympathy in this game for anybody.
Hello, and you're very welcome to episode 312 of Treaty Talk. Tom Clancy as host once again. It's another contract extension for 2025 and joined as ever by the Weekly Observer and Vale Star newspapers, Matt O'Callaghan. Matt, Happy New Year to you. How's all?
And the same to you, Tom. You had a good Christmas?
Not too bad, no. We can't complain, you know. We're getting over the snow now as I speak, and you know, I know you've been hemmed in the last few days, but
I've been hemmed in and will be hemmed in for another 2 days, I would say, anyway, hopefully. And that's relying on Mette Erin to come up with the thaw on Friday, that's promised. But I'm hearing now it's going to be a very slow thaw, but sure. Anything is better than what we have at the minute, you know.
Yeah, you're in with a warm cup of tea anyway, that's the main thing. And
I am, Tom, but I'm beginning to suffer withdrawal symptoms from having no matches, you know. We didn't have one since the week before Christmas, and it's a long time. I was banking on attending the Skull Pole game today. You were probably going to go towards Skull Reach, and of course they were beaten off by the weather, you know. But look, hopefully things will get back to some semblance of normality over the weekend and next week. But you know, like when we get this kind of weather, there's going to be a backlog.
There is, and January generally means one thing, Matt, and that's bad weather. It also means another thing, and that's Fitzgibbon Cup, and we'll be speaking with Jamie Wall about that as well, and of course, Mary I manager and defending champions for the year ahead. We'll bring Jamie in a second, Matt. But the big news, I suppose, in Gaelic game circles in Limerick in the last week or so is the retirement of one Richie English. You know, 29. I think some reports had him rounded up to 30, but nevertheless, an intercounty career has been, I suppose, I wouldn't say cut short, but has, you know, the injuries maybe have added up, and you know, we probably didn't get to see the best of him in the last few years, and we must acknowledge his service to Limerick, because, you know, 2 ACL injuries since 2020, and not to mind all the success that has gone alongside that and before. You know, what a servant to the Green of Limerick.
Sure, look, you know, when I had the news, my immediate emotion was one of great sadness, that we were losing such a stalwart, and I wouldn't describe it as an intercounty career at all. I would add an adjective to it, a stellar intercounty career, because his contribution to Limerick has been absolutely phenomenal. That's the only word I could describe for it. And I know we're going to be talking to him at Blint, because Jamie Wall would have worked with him in Mary I, and I know we're going to have a fuller discussion on Richie. But you know, we could give a couple of podcasts to the contribution, not just as a player, but as a man. You know, a gentleman with his fingertips.
Yeah, certainly, and anyone that's met him before or after games will know that. I would think it's a good time to bring in Jamie Wall. Jamie, Conasatatu, how's things? Happy New Year to you as well.
Good morning, Tom. Avlin Privasha, yeah, thanks very much. Many happy returns, and to you, Matt, as well.
Yes, I have to say it in English, Jamie. I have no Irish, unfortunately.
No, I'm done with that anyway.
That's all right, Matt. That's all right.
You have that bit of West Cork Irish.
A small bit, sure. We do our best. We do our best.
Yeah, no, it's we're not going to be speaking in Irish. We're going to be speaking about English. And the man I said there, Richie English there, Jamie, and Matt said it there. Of course, you worked with him in Mary I. Before we talk to you about him as a hurler, Matt touched on it there, and I've met him a few times after games, more often than not, for better or worse, with club and county. A very nice guy, I think it's fair to say, and I'm sure very popular in the dressing rooms that you were involved with as well.
Yeah, look, sure. Look, Richie's a super guy. Very popular with players, very popular with management. Just an all-round solid, such a solid young man, and has been for an awful long time. And I've been lucky enough to know Richie quite a long time. Even I know the first time I ever met Richie was in a challenge match in 2014. We were playing Fitzgibbon Cup against the Freshers. They had a particularly good Fresher team. They were the guys who went on and brought the first Fitzgibbon back to Mary, and I was playing on a slightly less prestigious Fitzgibbon team in 2014. We didn't have as good a record that year, but we played them in a challenge game, and Richie was playing, and he would have stood out even, even down in such off-Broadway settings. Like, you could see there was such a solid performer there. It didn't matter whether it was a challenge match down in Ballinacurra or, going on to play in Croke Park with Limerick. Like, he was 100%er. And, I was just listening backstage, shall we say, to you. And while I know there might be sadness there, I suppose I'd look at it very differently in that, particularly in the greater context of, being a Limerick hurler in the last 30, 40 years, Richie got to experience everything, and he got to experience some of the lows, which, when you get older is actually, you look back on them too. But I mean, he got to be everything. He got to be the guy breaking into a panel. He got to be the guy nailed on starter. He got to be an all-star. He got to be the guy coming back from injury to add to a group, and he got to be a guy coming on and contributing to a group throughout a career. So he had an amazing career and got to nearly tick all those boxes. But I suppose I certainly wouldn't look at it as one, and I'd say Richie probably doesn't look at it as one with sadness either. 6 All-Irelands, 4 Munsters, 3 National Leagues, and an All-Star. I think he looked back on that one all right. I think if you'd offered him that day down in Ballinacurra before he started his Limerick career as he was a young 19-year-old, I think we'd have probably shook hands on that, I'd say. So look, I'm sorry to see Richie pack it in at intercounty level, but it was amazing even, to be able to see him win a senior county with Doon this year as well. I think that was nearly the icing on the cake, and that was a brilliant way. He was so good for Doon. I think, we shouldn't even forget that, in that he's been such a massive leader there as well. Bringing them as part of that group that brought their first county. He was immense. We were covering it with TG Carr. He was immense that day against Ballygunner, where, you really would have wished that they had maybe another couple of days just to really go at it, but they were so good that day, and Richie's such a big driving force of that look, it's a career that maybe the couple of injuries, you might look at it with a small bit of regret, but God, I mean, he just packed so much into it and was such a brilliant player and brilliant man for Limerick, like Matt said.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I think you mentioned the honours there, and 6 Munsters, 4 All-Irelands, 3 National League, the All-Star in 2018. There's obviously the underage under 21 title as well, thrown in there as well. And I suppose up until his injury, I think it was against Galway in 2020, I suppose he'd really nailed down a place in that team at cornerback. And unfortunately, time waits for no man at intercounty level. He probably never got back in truly, certainly in the championship team. We certainly saw him coming in to kind of close out games and for bits and pieces. But, it must have taken a fair bit of mental fortitude for him to keep coming back. And then he got another one in, wasn't it 2022, I think it was, just before the All-Ireland, but still wanted to come back, wanted to be involved in the group, and, wanted to get back on that pitch. Like it's a testament to him, his mental ability as much as anything, really.
Yeah, and those are the guys you want more than anything in a panel, because, the guys that are willing to come in and say, yeah, I want to be on the team, but when push comes to shove, I want to help the team win. And if that means 10 seconds at the end, or, I mean, one of the most iconic images, we'll say, in Limerick's recent history is Richie catching that ball at the end of the first All-Ireland that she won. And there's a guy who had been around for, not Richie, Tom Condon catching that ball at the end, and a guy who'd been, Tom, and, again, a guy who came in and was like, whatever it takes to get this over the line, that's what I do. And, to have Richie then, say towards the latter end of his time, will say that, yeah, I'm coming back. I want to be a starter, but equally, if you need me for 10 minutes to win this game at the end, that's what I'll do. You know, that's the kind of guy he is. And so that's, I mean, that's no shock to the people who know him, you know. So, you know, like those are the guys that win All Irelands. You know, there's a reason why Limerick have won these All Irelands, and it's not just been, you know, having, and they have had amazing players, but it's not just been having those 14, 15 amazing players. It's been having guys who can trust in John and Paul and the various different selectors that you've had over the years, that whatever they ask here, what do I do to get it over the line? And yeah, no surprise, but like, you know, I'm just looking forward to maybe meeting Richie in the next couple of months, hopefully meeting him over in Old Trafford or something, and in a more relaxed setting. Well, I don't know if it'll be more relaxed, hopefully in a more relaxed setting that the two of us might be able to, you know, sit down and enjoy something from the sidelines. But look, I mean, I just massive congratulations to him on an intercounty career that has had so much success. And you know, I've no doubt that there's another couple of years left in him for Doon, and now that they've made that breakthrough, I'm sure they won't just be happy with one.
Yeah, Matt.
Yeah, when I said there at the outset, regretted his departure, but I think at this stage now that he's gone from the intercounty scene, we should celebrate what he has done over the last decade. But I first became acquainted with Richie when he was a Limerick minor in 2012. The following year, he was the Limerick minor captain, and Limerick ended a 29-year drought without a minor championship when he led him to win the Munster Minor Hurling Championship that year. Subsequently, when he came under your wing, Jamie, you obviously noticed the leadership qualities that he had. Now, he's a quite spoken man, but he, he has that aura of leadership about him, and he was captain of your team, I think, in 2017. Is that correct?
Himself and Dick were joint captains in 2016.
Yeah,
that was so it would have been Eamon's team that the rest of us were given a hand with. But like, I mean, it was there was certainly no question that he was that leader. Like, and even, you know, Matt, the following year when we won it for a second year, Richie came to me at the start of the year and said, look, I'm going to be a leader in the group anyway, you know, get someone else to take the captaincy, and we've got 2 or 3 leaders spread around. And again, even that was just a real mark of him, that he was like, yeah, look, I did it last year, now let me lead, but let's get another kind of body in here in the leadership group. And that spoke to him, that it was never about ego. You know, for Richie, it wasn't like, am I going to lift the cup? It was, how many guys can lead this thing, you know?
Yeah, but the resilience of the man, I think, when you look back in his career at seeing a level in totality and the 2 major injuries that he suffered, I think, particularly when the second one came along, I'd say an awful lot of people would be saying to themselves at that stage, hey, I have enough of it, but not Richie.
No, that's for sure. But look, sure, that's, like I said, I mean, I'll probably sound like I'm going in circles, like, but that's the guy you're dealing with. Like, I think a lot of people would have said that's enough for me, but I think anyone who knew Richie would have known that won't be enough for him, and that's why, like I said, it's a loss for Limerick as a group, but I have no doubt that those energies are going to be propelled into making sure that Doon isn't a one and done, that Richie is kind of heavily involved there and hoping to have further success there now that they've kind of finally broken that, got that kind of monkey off their back, we'll say.
Yeah, 27 championship appearances, I think, nearly 70 across championship and league as well for Limerick, which is over a decade is fair going, considering the couple of injuries thrown in there. And obviously,
for sure.
It's some innings, in fairness to him. Only a couple of points though for Limerick, but in fairness, he was often marked there, tasked with marking one of the better men at the other end of the field. Okay, that's Richie English. Now, we've mentioned the words Fitzgibbon Cup there plenty of times. Jamie, you're obviously, as you said to us there at the outset, involved again with Mary Immaculate College, the defending champions for the upcoming competition. Before we look at the, I suppose, ins and outs of the season coming, it's a competition that you definitely, I know from speaking to last year after the win, hold so dear. It's a competition that many hold so dear to their own hearts, whether it be from a coaching or playing point of view. It's a competition that, maybe doesn't get the limelight of other competitions, but certainly has a huge place in the GA calendar nationally.
It does, Tom, and a hugely deserved place because it's such a historic competition, has been around for so long. Look, it's obviously one that I have a huge affinity with, from playing in it with Mary I in 2013 and getting to our first final, to being fortunate enough to work with Eamon, and Gavin and the lads in 2016 when we won it for the first time, and then taking over the following year and being there for the last number of years. We've had a bit of success, fortunately, and we've had tough years as well, but probably more good than bad, which has been great. And it's been a competition, I think, that has been really good for the young players, in this region, in obviously in Limerick, but also in Clare. If you look at the impact of the Clare lads over the last couple of years in the competition, and a lot of them went on and won that All Ireland with Clare last year as well. So, it's a competition that is, particularly with the way the underage grade went back to under 20. I think it's a competition that maybe is even more important now than people realise in terms of as a stepping stone, because the physicality of senior intercounty means that it takes really, really exceptional players and very much the exceptions rather than the rules to make it straight out of under 20. So it's such an important thing to have that kind of bridging kind of competition there. And it's one that it's a real proving ground for guys, so yeah, look, it's a brilliant competition in its own right as well, and not just as that stepping stone. It's a competition that lads enjoy so much, when they're actually playing in it, and that's the most important thing. I think we can get very bogged down in stuff like exposure and attendances and all these kind of buzzwords that I'd have choice words about, but probably not. There's probably a whole other podcast in that I'm sure we can leave it, so we can leave it off. But the most important thing about our games, and always has been about our games, is that people enjoy them, and the people involved in these games, they enjoy it, and that's what keeps us coming back. That's what keeps me coming back. That's what keeps the players coming back. And yeah, I mean, like we obviously enjoyed it an awful lot last year. But and you mentioned defending the trophy, but I do you know what, we don't even look at it as defending it, because the nature of a college's competition or a school's competition or even an underage competition is that fellas move on and new teams come together every single year. So we kind of look at it more like nearly like I'm based in Dublin now, and there was one of the candidates was asked about potentially taking someone else's seat, and he said nobody has a seat. It's been dissolved. We start again, and I'll let you figure out who said that now. If you look it up, you might. But
very popular candidate in the media, I think, wasn't he?
He got plenty of exposure anyway. But it was a pretty decent point in that the seats are empty, and the same as that. The minute the new year came, 2025, we're not the Fitzgibbon champions anymore. We're another team. We're one of 11 teams who are starting from scratch and with a new team and a new group and trying to go again and see what we can do.
Yeah, you mentioned it is a new group. There's certainly a number of names that have graduated literally and are gone, but there's still an awful lot of names that are jump off the page. I see you've the Young Hurler of the Year still with you in the form of Adam Hogan. You've plenty of Limerick involvement, namely Jimmy Quilty, Cian Scully. I see Oisin O'Farrell, Shane O'Brien. Then you've Declan McLaughlin, of course, who played last year from Galway, and there's many more besides. I see Vince Harrington there as well from the Pearse League. It's I said Shane O'Brien, I think there, did I in the middle, but you've Shane Meehan as well. It's you get a real crop of really good talented players, and these guys people would be familiar with from obviously senior level with their counties, but even guys coming out of minor and coming trying to make a mark at 20s. It's a competition, as you say. It shouldn't be viewed as a stepping stone, but it certainly has been a stepping stone for so many. I think Aaron Gillan is certainly probably the most high profile one that I would have observed maybe in the last 6 or 7 years. Someone that, I wouldn't say the jury was out, but maybe people looked at his club mate. Cian Lynch as a real star. Not too many would have picked Aaron out as that, but he certainly got such some amount out of this competition in terms of his own development, and his own confidence, I suppose, to kick on at intercounty level, and obviously culminating in becoming hurler of the year a couple of years ago. Like, so it's, it can do magical things for people, or it can be the start of something magical.
Absolutely, yeah. Sure. Look, he is obviously the kind of the poster boy for the guys who will say come that small bit later and use it as that jumping off point. But you see it throughout the competition, and again, you're going to see it this year take for example in UL, and obviously Adam English has been building up and was so good for Doon last year, and making a mark in Limerick. The likes of him, they're going to say, right, big campaign here, I want to start for Limerick. And, different guys throughout the whole competition. Ben Cunningham down in Cork, probably a good example in that he'd have probably been disappointed not to be more involved with Cork last year. He's 21 now, going on 22. Potentially, a big Fitzgibbon campaign for the likes of him could be a huge jumping point for him to start the year going in that direction. So it is obviously, it is that. I suppose the beauty of it is you've got guys along a kind of a spectrum. You've got you mentioned Adam, we'll say, and Shane O'Brien for us, who are probably, are established now, particularly Adam, has started, and Shane has started some games and will be hoping to nail down a starting place, I'm sure. The likes of, Gerard O'Connor and Tip, they're all, these guys are that kind of, we'll say, in that area. Then you've got the next kind of rung down of lads who want to get, into that starting zone and want to kick on. Then you've got the guys who might have played under 20 and are knocking around inter-county panels. So like, just in our example, you named Keane Scully, Paddy Donovan in UL, different guys like that. I'm just thinking of the guys, I suppose, that people will be familiar with here, and then you've got your guys who maybe aren't in intercounty panels and want to either remind people of the level they're at or show people the level they're at, So you've got guys all along this spectrum, and seeing who can kick it on in a championship game. I think it's worth so much. It really does show a very different side to a guy. What does a guy do when the game is there to be won in a championship game? There is nothing like that, I know there's an awful lot to be said for the league games and for training, and I know some people to varying degrees would have seen merits or lack of merit in the preseason competitions. Again, not going to litigate that here, no point. But my point is, it's a very different thing to see what does a guy do in a championship game, when the fat is in the fire. And that's one of the most interesting things about the Fitzgibbon. It's a thing that I've really enjoyed over the years, and very often it's the guys playing against us that, a couple of months later I'm watching an intercounty game and I'm saying, keep an eye out on that fella. Look, he broke our hearts that day, or he really showed up that day, or he showed, they're the guys that, you become quite familiar because you get such a broad kind of spectrum and a broad stroke view of all these guys. So, it's going to be a hell of an experience this year to see, and looking at the kind of competition. I think possibly, more so than ever, it's actually quite a hard one to call. I think there's 4 or 5 teams that are actually on a very, very similar level.
You got a nice handy group, Jamie, didn't you? With
a Doddle, yeah, Tom.
Yeah. I know, yeah.
Two seeds and the best ATU team that they've had in a number of years. They have a couple of very good players that are in the Galway senior panel at the moment. So yeah.
Yeah, just for people who mightn't be familiar, that's University of Limerick, obviously. Yourselves, Mary SETU Waterford, formerly Waterford IT for people of a certain vintage, and ATU Galway, which is formerly GMIT as well for people. So as you say, an improving looking Galway, ATU Galway, I suppose, panel. SETU always seem to be knocking around the business end of it.
In the semi-finals the last 3-4 years.
Yeah, and UL, obviously a very strong UL team who just won the league. Like so, but as you say, you'll get to see what your guys are made of in the group games, because you're gonna have to collect the points to get out of it, because it's going to be far from, to use your word, it's going to be far from a daddle. To be fair, it's going to be fairly frantic fairly early, isn't it?
It is, yeah. But you know what, Tom? I mean, what would you want? What would you want an easy group for? You could sleepwalk into a quarter final or a semi final, and then you get beaten anyway. And sure, it is a fine thing. A fine thing. See what you're about early, and if you're good enough and this goes for everyone. It goes for UL, it goes for SETU, and it goes for ATU, and for ourselves, obviously. And it goes for everyone. If you're good enough, you'll get out of it, and if you're not good enough, you won't get out of it. And that's sport. There's no, I had to laugh, I see it, during the summer, people were talking about the Munster Championship and they're saying, should we have 4 people get out? I was saying, like, Jesus, lads, if you can't get 3 out of a group of 5, you're
not good enough. Yeah,
tough luck. Like, try again next year. Like, and it's the same. For us, we could be saying, "Oh God, there's 3 in our group that'll be very good teams." 3 of the 4 semi-finalists from last year. But you're like, if you're only coming 3rd there, then hard luck. Yeah. Give it a go again. And again, I say that in full knowledge that Jesus, like, you don't have to be that far off it to lose the 2 games, but sure, that's sport. Like, you can't be, you don't get 7 or 8 points to the cherry. Like, it just, you go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Matt.
Yeah, Jamie, I'm just thinking there. While you were speaking, we have the lapsed Munster Senior Hurling League now and the pre-season thing. Obviously, that must be one headache out of a manager's way when it comes to the Fitzgibbon Cup.
Look, from our perspective, obviously, it's, I suppose even for the inter-county managers, particularly now, like, let's look at the cold snap that we've had in the bad weather. I'm sure some games have gone by the wayside. Like, you saw Tip and Clare last weekend. The beauty with, and people were making the argument that, sure, they're going to have challenge games anyway. Absolutely. But if a challenge game gets put off, it's not it doesn't, you mentioned backlog, I think, Matt. I think you might have said it when I was listening back. There's no backlog on a challenge game. You reorganize something else, or you go training, or I think that greater degree of control at this time of year for everyone is, and you can decide, like, when you've got challenge games and things like that, the inter-county managements can mind the players and they can say, right, this guy needs minutes, but this guy actually is playing Fitzgibbon Cup for Mary I or UL during the week, so he's only going to play a half here. And you've got a far more, you can cut your cloth a fair bit more. From our perspective, obviously, just the fact that the fixtures don't have to be fulfilled. The guys aren't under pressure to definitely play a game that has to be played on a Saturday night. Where there's, a restriction on how many subs can be used and all these things that, that bit more scope for the managers to look after the players is something we're quite happy with. And we obviously, there's a lot of trust, between managements and, in fairness to the Limerick management, have been very, very good to us in terms of access to the players, but also in terms of keeping us in the loop about the training that they're doing and what they can then do with us, and giving us a couple of players for an amount of time, and monitoring and minding the players, because ultimately we're all on the same team. We just want the guys to be fit and playing and progressing. So having that bit more freedom, and then we get that bit of feedback, and we're told, X player, look, for your challenge games or for your training, can he just do A, B, C, but not D and F, and and I suppose having that just bit more freedom to mind the players and get them through this early part of the year, fit and healthy and ready to rock for what should be an improved league, I'd imagine, this year, just given the kind of the change in structure in terms of even set up and that. I think we might enjoy the league a bit more this year, the Intercounty League, as spectators. I think there just might be a bit more riding on it. And obviously, look, the main thing being getting them right then into the championship for the summer. Like, so it's having that small bit of a headache, it's a small little ease off your mind now. It's not that all of a sudden we're training in morning, noon and night. It's very much the same as it was before in terms of from my perspective anyway. I can't speak for other managers, but from my perspective, we very much try to mind the lads and go with and pull with the intercounty managers, and just go accordingly. And to be fair to them, they generally see that bigger picture as well.
Yeah. Jamie, for fellas trying to break through to county senior teams, which must be the ambition of any hurler, I think that in terms of importance, the Fitzgibbon Cup has probably leapfrogged even the league. in that in the Fitzgibbon Cup you have real absolute competitive hurling, and managers are able to see lads in that competitive setting, because no matter how the league is, it's still a league.
For
and
sure.
there is not as much riding on it as there is in the likes of the Fitzgibbon Cup.
Yeah, and well, particularly maybe like the latter stages of the league, fair enough. When that bit of silverware comes into it, you see, you even notice a very definite step up in the Clare Kilkenny final last year, by comparison to the other games. But early on in the league, you're absolutely correct, Matt. Like some of them games, managements are managed, and again, by the way, I'm certainly not giving out here. I agree with it. Managements are getting what they want out of those games. They're saying we want to get building up the lads' fitness. We want to mind this fella because he's done a hard week of training. So there's all of that going into it, but there's none of those considerations when a lad steps out onto the pitch in a championship game. And ultimately, the Fitzgibbon Cup is a championship, and you see it when, for example, last year. A great example last year is late on in the Fitzgibbon Cup final when Shane O'Brien comes out into the half-forward line, to go and win a game. And you just see that different side of a guy there. You see, okay, what does this guy do when it's on him, to lead the team and try and get the team over the line? Because, when you see these guys playing inter-county, and they're under, and again, you forget how young they were. Like Shane was only under 20 last year, for example. These guys, there's a natural tendency for younger guys to look to, and correctly, to look to, the Aarons, the Declan Hannons, the Will O'Donoghues, these guys. But what do they do when people are looking to them? And that's a big thing, I think, for the Fitzgibbon, because, you saw it down through the years. Even I think of UL, Brian O'Mara was such a massive player for them for 2 years in the two Fitzgibbon Cups they won. And at centre back there, he came out with a ball against Waterford IT in his Fitzgibbon Cup semi-final 2 years ago when they were under pressure, and scored a point down in Waterford IT that kind of swung the game back in their favour when they were under the cosh. And I just think displays like that show, okay, when people look to this guy, here's what he does. So let's look at the next step up now. What can he do? And that's, for me, is probably the biggest thing about the Fitzgibbon, in that it gives an opportunity for these guys who might be younger, part players in the inter-county teams, but what are they like when they're asked to lead a team? And invariably the guys who answer those questions the right way, you tend to see a lot more of them. We started the conversation chatting about Richie. There's one of your big examples. You tend to see these guys for quite a long time, the guys that answer those questions.
Yeah, very good. Jamie, you've sold the Fitzgibbon to me now, and Matt, who I don't think we needed much selling. But anyone listening or watching, is not sure about getting to these games, and should I bother on a Wednesday night when it's minus whatever? Like, I mean, maybe you've sold it entirely there, but I mean, like,
the weather's picking up. There's the first one.
There's the first one. Weather's picking up. You could see the next gem. Maybe that's the tell I always tell the people.
Get particularly, look. This is a Limerick podcast. Get down to UL and SETU next Wednesday in Maguire's. You have a brilliant field. You will have, honestly, I'd say you'll have to go to 20 to 25 intercounty players on the pitch. Some of them are the next coming intercounty players. Some of them you'll know. Get down to that. Get down 2 weeks later to Mary during the day on your lunch break. We'll try and have it on early. Make sure so you can get down, take a long lunch, come down and watch Mary and UL. You'll have the guts of 20 to 30 intercounty players playing on the field there, going at it. It's and going at it as well. The other thing that I'd probably say is there's a bit more freedom in terms of the way they play, because of the fact that we don't have time, and UL don't have time, and Waterford don't have time, and ACU don't have time. They don't have time. We don't have time to put much in the line of defensive setups and systems in place. There's a degree of kind of lads coming together, and that slightly more old-fashioned style of hurling sometimes does come out. The conditions are a little bit muckier, a little bit wetter, and it's a little bit less controlled than some of the stuff that happens. Some of the really high quality stuff that happens in intercounty, you get a different experience at Fitzgibbon, and if you're a hurling person, I would say it's one that you quite enjoy, So get down next Wednesday to Maguire's. Send me on a scouting report if you want. I'll set up my Twitter again. You can send it on. and get down in a fortnight to Mary. Hopefully both teams will be in a position where it's got a lot riding on it.
Very good, yeah. And I suppose make sure that you wear 4 layers rather than 3, as I learned last year, or maybe 5 or 6.
Stick on the body warmer and a warm coat, and I'm sure, and bring an umbrella just in case.
Yeah, you wouldn't know what you get. Jamie, before we let you go, I suppose we're conscious that you're a Corkman on a Limerick podcast discussing hurling, and it was, of course, your county comrades who dismantled the drive for 5, and I suppose in Limerick here we hope it starts again. But at broad strokes, I suppose at this point, this time of the year, we obviously haven't seen the intercounty teams in action, certainly competitively yet in 2025. But there's a kind of a nice storm brewing in Munster and indeed Leinster, I'd say, for the year coming. Loads of narrative. We've Davy Fitz going tantrum. We've a new manager back in Galway. We've a new manager in Dublin. Then obviously this side of the world, then we've Limerick trying to seek and they get back up them steps again. We've Clare trying to seek and they kick on, and then we've Cork trying to, it's going to be another exciting.
Cork trying to make.
Trying to do something,
yeah.
Trying to make the breakthrough, But like it's there's a nice loads of narrative coming into the year ahead, and we should be very excited at this early juncture.
Oh God, massively so. And like, there's a lot of parallels probably in Cork, or at least we'd like to see a lot of parallels with where Limerick possibly were in 2017-18. You know, a bit of underage success in the last couple of years, and hoping to get, because you know yourself, the hardest one is to get that first one over the line, and Cork could be really, really keen to try and do that. But unfortunately, from a Cork perspective, you start again at 0. You know, I said that as well earlier on, talking about the Fitzgibbon. 2025. It doesn't matter that you were in an All-Ireland final, or it doesn't matter that you beat Limerick. You have to go and do it again, and that's the same for everyone. It's the same for Limerick at the start of every year, and that's probably why that team was such a good team, is that they were able to hit the reset and start again every year. And the challenge for Cork and for Clare, and obviously Tip and Waterford as well, is to hit reset and to go again, whether you're coming back from a disappointing year, in the case of Tip, a kind of a middling year in the case of Waterford. Probably Cork exceeded expectations last year, certainly after around 1 or 2, trying to get back up going there. Limerick probably have the easiest job in terms of motivating guys, motivating highly talented men. That's probably not the hardest thing in the world to do, motivating disappointed talented men after last year. So I'm expecting a huge year from them, to be honest. And I'm not a gambling man, and I wouldn't be telling anyone to gamble their money, but certainly if I was asked my tip of the year, I'd probably be saying Limerick are looking very, very strong and in a really strong position to kick on. And then, like, you look at Galway, Micheál Donoghue coming back, that's an exciting one, because they've probably been disappointing in the last couple of years, a couple of Leinster finals where they didn't get over the line. Ran Limerick really close one of the years in Croke Park. So like, you kind of feel as if that Galway team, that there's potentially more there too. They had such a disappointing year last year. So like you said, Tom, loads of narrative, and just hopefully we'll be, I'm hoping for kind of a middling league, just let it kind of bubble away, and that we're ready for early May for it to fucking just blow the roof off it inside in Páirc Uí Chaoimh or the Gaelic grounds, or down in Ennis or somewhere like that. That'd be great. But we've got other fish to fry at the moment now for the next month anyway. We'll see how that kicks the year off.
And just to let you go on,
it's in us on the opening day, Jamie.
Oh Jesus, right?
But seriously, referring to Cork there, until the noughties, we'll say, until 2000 to 2010, there was no decade in which Cork didn't win an All Ireland. Now they're 20 years without winning an All Ireland, which is an absolute famine, a lifetime in Cork. How much do you think that it's now becoming a monkey on their back? Because I've been reading snippets about it already. 20 years without a title and all that sort of stuff.
Look, you know yourself, Matt, that stuff can be overblown. Like, the bottom line is, like, Cork, how would I put this? Cork generally don't tend to suffer from an inferiority complex. And it's not something that's ever been associated with us. And I don't think we're in any major danger of it setting in. I think the Cork boys probably needed last year to show, when things were down, that it can turn very quickly and get back up to a level. Unfortunately, just one or two small things in a final, allied to, the Tony Kelly show for the last 35 minutes, makes a game go against you by a point. I think Cork, and by all accounts, are going quite well at the moment. It's a very happy camp as well, by all accounts. Again, I was only chatting to a fella last night about this. I think if Cork can get going and get on a run, you saw last year, once they get on a run, there's it's very hard to keep them down for long. And, I think there has been a bit of underage success in the last couple of years. UCC, it's not that long ago, UCC won 2 Fitzgibbon Cups in a row. And a lot of those players are the guys like Mark Coleman, Dara Fitzgibbon, are the guys kind of at the helm there. We've got quite a strong club scene. We've 3 teams in the All-Ireland club finals, senior, intermediate, junior. So all those things are bubbling away quite nicely. And I would think it'll be a while yet before Cork suffer from, that phrase, monkey on the back. I think once the Cork lads get going, there's no fear of them. And nor should there be, because there's an awful lot of talent there, and there's a good management there. But like I said, they have to go again now and they start again at 0. But I've no doubt that they will. And like I said, it's a long year. We were looking after 2 weeks last year or 3 weeks last year. We were saying Cork are done, and all of a sudden, things turn in the blink of an eye with that Patrick Hargan penalty, and you're going the other direction. So it's one of those things that, like I said, Matt, not that I'm sure you're overly concerned in Limerick about us or about our confidence, but I'm sure the boys will be all right once they get through the league and get their fitness levels up. There'll be no fear of them.
The late 65 in Innis as well for Clare.
Yeah, well, this is it. The
smallest margins,
the 65.
Margins with small margins.
This is it, and you know what? And Cork could play really well this year, and the small margins could go join the early rounds, and the small margins could go the other way, and you could be knocked out in Munster. So it's just one of those things that it's. Look, I made a lot of predictions last year. I'd say I only got about 3 of them right throughout the whole year, and I was going this way and that way. So it's something I've learned this year. Now I'm going to keep my predictions to myself, except to say that it's something I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah, I'll tell you have a great day's work done if you avoid Tom Clancy dragging a prediction out of you, because he dragged it out of you all during the summer.
Yeah, well, I think, Matt, just about in our club predictions, you were just about third. I was just about second, and John Keogh pipped us to the title. But I don't know how he managed that. He'd know. His club weren't represented, so he'd know. He didn't.
Yeah,
he let
no
his
skin
head,
in the game.
That was the problem,
you can be a bit more objective.
Yeah.
Is that
so maybe
being called a point? If Adam English had got that last point in the county final.
Oh yeah, you'd have had the exact margin. But anyway, there we go. Small margins as ever. Okay, Jamie.
Margins.
Yeah, Jamie, thanks very much. And we're wishing you the best for the upcoming Fitzgibbon Cup Championship, and I'm sure we'll be seeing you on the sideline. And hopefully 2024 or 2025 will not be like 2024. Cork will not be getting in Limerick's way. But in fairness, I think even though you're saying we're not worried, I'd say, speaking to a lot of Limerick supporters, they're more worried about Cork than Clare. And it's Cork.
Well, I'll have no comment on that now. I won't go making a rod for my own back with that.
No, absolutely.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, Jamie, thanks a million. We'll chat to you again soon.
Tom. See you, Matt.
Thanks a million, Jamie. Best of luck for the year.
No bother, boys. Thanks very much.
Okay, cheers. Okay, thanks a million to Jamie Wall for joining us there. Matt, so plenty of good stuff in there.
With the Mary this phenomenal record.
Yeah, we probably didn't touch on it. Their playing population. It's always mentioned, rightly so. They've wouldn't have a huge pick of talent.
No, wouldn't have the same as UL or UCC.
Not even close.
We didn't get to UCC there, and I was looking forensically at that panel, and it's a lot better than what you think of when you look at it first, and I hope to get to see him next Wednesday, but there seems to be a lot of what Jamie was talking about, the young Cork players coming through there that, plus Owen Downey and fellas like Dara Flynn and those, they're...
Yeah. I know.
Ben Cunningham is there as well,
I think he's right, though. It makes for an exciting competition this year. I think you well won the league. Mary won last year, but Mary have lost a number of players. Devin Ryan was very good in that final. He's one who's
Jason Gillan.
Jason Gillan, yeah. So like, you know, they've had to replace, and same as you will, I'm sure, have had to replace a few, but you know, it's going to be very interesting. We've over 30 Limerick players involved on the various panels, and it's you know, it's going to be exciting to watch, see how those guys go, and obviously some of them more, I suppose, more up the pecking orders than others. I see I actually have the UL team from the league final here in front of me, and it's great to see so many Limerick names involved on that day. Evan O'Leary of Ahan, Colin Coughlin and Aidan O'Connor of Ballybrown, Cathal O'Neill of Crocora, who's probably going to miss the majority of it injured, Paddy O'Donovan of Effin. They all played in that league final. Adam English, of course, as well.
English.
And Brian Ryan of South Liberty's at the helm. So that's just UL, like, but there's plethora out in Toos. There's one or two elsewhere as well, isn't there? So we'll be keeping an eye on those.
Lachlan McHale is with Maynooth, and Barry Hennessy is with Waterford, and there's a couple with MPU.
Yeah, and that's
a couple with Waterford actually. Killian O'Brien of Glenrose with Waterford as well.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see who indeed gets game time, but we'll keep an eye on it anyway from a Limerick point of view over the next month or so as the competition starts this day next week. We're recording on Wednesday, so Wednesday the 15th.
There's James Conheady from Crocora is on the UCD squad.
Oh yeah. Well, there's a plethora across the way. Saying on hurling, Matt, I know a few people would have spotted that Limerick played UL at the weekend in, I would call it more of a trial than a challenge. And
you were there, Tom?
I was there. Yeah. I'm just trying to find my notes from it here. UL. Look, they won the game, as it were. No, not that anyone was there for the result, but you know,
what way did the things for you on, Tom?
I was on the warmest part possible, but I know what you mean. No, I was just there as an interested spectator, Matt.
As a neutral now, are you?
Oh yeah, well, let's sure I'm a reporter, Matt. We're always neutral, isn't that right? You know, it comes with the territory. But just to mention some of the,
I believe that if you will win the Fitzgibbon Cup, listening to you.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I never lined up for UL and GA. So, but anyway, just looking at the Limerick hurling team here, that started. Jason Gillan was in goals. Vince Harrington, Sean Casey, and Ronan Lyons made up the full back line. Keane Scully of Drummond at Lacca, Ethan Hurley, and Dara Langan in the half back line. Barry Murphy was at midfield, joined by Hugh Flanagan. Fintan Fitzgerald was actually supposed to start, but picked up, would you believe, an ear injury in the warm up. I suppose through a bit of a small sided game, had an awful cut on his ear, required bandages. So unfortunately, he didn't get to, I suppose, line out for the Limerick senior team in a challenge game. Barry Murphy, as I said, was also in midfield. Micheál Hoolan, Con Hayes, Eddie Stokes were 10, 11 and 12. Donegal O'Donnell, Seamus Flanagan and Dylan Lynch completing the starting 15. And as I say, Hugh Flanagan started, but then you had Shane Dowling playing the second half, Chris Thomas, Oisin O'Farrell and William Dorr. So we're very familiar with all those names, Matt, you and I. Yeah. I'm going to a lot of them playing with senior.
We didn't mention it there, but Eddie Stokes was playing with UCC in the Fitzgibbon Cup.
Yeah, but just those names, a lot of them stood out at club level last year. A lot of them playing senior club hurling, and nearly all of them actually, one or two down the grades as well. But the majority.
John Casey now is a very interesting one, a very, very young boy, and we have said it here. We have flagged about this young man.
Very powerful. Back. Yeah, tall and powerful, and you know.
I'd put my hands up and I'd say I know nothing if this guy doesn't make it, you know.
Yeah. Well,
he's too young, you know.
Oh yeah, he's a handful of those guys are under 20 again for the season coming. So you know, it was a case of, I suppose, I just wanted to look at guys and a lot of the senior players, Cian Lynch, Gerard Hegarty, William O'Donoghue, Dermot Burns, to name a few, they were going through their paces on the pitch beside it. So they were getting fitness work in. So interesting game. Kind of died off a bit in the second half, a couple of stop starts. They only played 60 minutes. It didn't even reach 60 minutes, I think 58 minutes, and they called a halt. It was getting very cold. There was a couple of knocks and injuries in both teams, so they called a halt. Look, there's nothing to be read into it. I presume John Kiley, Paul Kinnerk and co wanted to just cast their eye over guys in a something of a competitive environment, and obviously UL wanted to run out before the Fitzgibbon. So look, early stages in the year, we'll see who of those makes inroads in the league, but some of those guys now I'm sure just want to get onto the panel for the year ahead, see where they go.
Well, of course, you see, these are auditions for, there's going to be a cut in the panel, isn't there?
Yeah. Well, there's upwards of 40 names there, so
it's an ongoing audition, all those type of things for the various players, and see how they react in such situations, you know.
Yeah, and it was the first time, well, unless they played another game before Christmas, it was the first time that I'd seen Shane Dowling playing for Limerick in 5 years and about 6 months since he played in the 2019 All-Ireland semi-final against Kilkenny. Would you believe, Matt?
One of the greatest comebacks and one of the greatest players of all time. This.
Yeah, I know it's great to see, and you know, he'll have his work cut out to be number one. I tell you, Jason Gillan is certainly in the reckoning there. He'd a fine save in the first half, and it'll be interesting to see how that one plays out. It's obviously one of the main talking points about the team for the year. But just as a side note on Shane Dowling, I do remember the Limerick yearbook, Matt, in 2023. Paul Anglin would have put it together. And I was asked to write a piece about Aaron Gillan getting the Limerick scoring record. And obviously at this point, Shane Dowling was well into retirement. So I think one of the lines I used in it, whatever amount of appearances and scores he had, I had put a real full stop to that. You know, I can't remember the exact numbers now, but I had said it was his final game in 2019. And well, he's out to prove that one wrong, and I suppose rip up the script, as it were. So we'll see how.
Don't bet about he getting on the field, and don't bet about against him scoring.
Exactly. You know, it's just he has that in his arsenal for sure. Okay, we'll see how it plays out for those guys, and a lot of them, as we say, effectively on a trial basis, or on a testing ground, proving ground for them, and a lot of them, Hugh Flanagan being one that I caught the eye, certainly for his endeavour for me, and such a young guy as well.
Yeah, there you go, a very, very young guy.
Yeah, and still playing under 20s for the year coming with Limerick, I'm sure. Okay, Matt, school stuff, we mentioned at the very outset there, postponed from today, moved forward at the moment anyway, weather permitting, to next Monday the 13th, Ards Rish, and in Dr. Harty Cup action, and then in the Munster under 19B colleges, Skull Pole will also be in action. So disappointing not to go ahead today, but obviously the right decision to postpone them till next Monday.
Absolutely, sure. It wasn't possible for them to go ahead today. Now, Ardscoil Rish were to be playing Thurles in Newport at 1:30, but obviously that fell foul as the weather. Now, I didn't have a venue for where Skull Pole were to be playing Bishopstown, but that is refixed as well for Monday, and it's going to be going ahead at 12:30. But these time are all conditional on weather. Like we have to enter that caveat now with all these fixtures, you know. And even if we stretch it out to the 15th of the month, when we hope that goddamn blanket of white is gone, you know, when the Fitzgibbon Cup kicks off, it kicks off this evening week.
Yeah. Wednesday the 15th, as I said. Yeah. So it's all going to come out.
The Fitzgibbon Cup has been condensed. A lot of the Fitzgibbon Cup games fell foul, and they're going on. You will come into football in a minute.
Yeah, we'll come to football in a minute. But I
will talk about the Sigerson then.
Yeah, but that's the Limerick involvement anyway in colleges hurling knockouts, as we say at the moment, slated for next Monday, but all very much to be confirmed in terms of venues, referees, and obviously the actual fixture itself with the weather. But thankfully the weather looks like it's taking a bit of a lift over the weekend. But I'm sure people will get along to support those teams
you know, there's a lot of stuff there to be got rid of, and with the thaw and everything, you know.
Yeah, and you just don't know what condition pitches will be in as well if they had.
That's exactly it, Tom. Yeah.
As you and I both know, living in the south of the county, I think I had about 7 inches where I am, and I'm sure it was a lot worse where you are. So,
well, it was venues like you know.
Yeah, venues like Kilmallock and Bruff and these places, and you know that have hosted these games down the years. You know they'll be under pressure, I'm sure, to be right for next Monday. But we'll see how it plays out. Okay, that's plenty of hurling chat. Moving to football, Matt. Limerick played a challenge game last Saturday under the new rules dictated by the Football Review Committee, and Limerick were beaten by Clare, but I suppose again the result's not paramount, certainly at this point of the year. Year 2 for Jimmy Lee kicks off, and 212 to 110 it ended, but
214 to 110.
Sorry, 214 to 110, I should say. I'm misremembering even myself, but interesting to see a number of new faces on the panel, a number of familiar faces back again for 2025. And I suppose Jimmy just trying to find the best balance for his panel for the year ahead.
Yeah, that's what he's trying to do. You see, first of all, it's a twofold, because they travel to Longford on the 26th of the month, Tom, which is only 3 weeks away. You know.
Yeah, the hurlers have an extra week on them because they're not playing till round 2. So the footballers, though, full bore straight into it,
full board straight into it, because it's only next Sunday, 2 weeks. And there is no McGrath Cup competition this year to run the rule over players. And there are very few Limerick players involved in the Sigerson Cup. I think it's down to 2, Cormac Wolf and Darrow Hagan. But I wasn't at the game now. John Reddington was there on my behalf. But just talking to John about it, I got a mixed reaction to it. But because, you see, it's one thing, Jimmy Lee running the rule over his players.
Yeah.
But more importantly, even on this occasion, is that he had to run the rule over their how they have adapted to the new rules.
Yeah, and Limerick got a lot of things right with the new rules, and they got some things wrong as well. Now, I suppose just to break down a few examples of it, I was there as well. I know you weren't there, Matt. Andrew Mead scored a 2-pointer from play. He used his pace, cut in from the left wing, and had a nice early shot that, in years gone by, players might have taken it on a bit further. So he benefited from having that goal just those few yards earlier. Bang on the line, I'd say he was. He was just perfectly outside it. Nice 2-pointer for Limerick. Clare, to be fair to them, they used, now I don't think it was blown, but because it didn't need to be. With the Clare's first goal came from an advanced mark. They kicked the ball straight into Limerick's full forward line. It was caught, hand passed off, a bit kind of old school, and buried to the net. It was a sign of maybe what can be done with these new rules, because if they did miss that opportunity, they would have come back for a tap over mark, a tap over free, but Clare got caught twice in the first 20 minutes for having fewer than 3 players in the Limerick half, the 3-up rule or whatever it's going to be called. They brought 3 players beyond the halfway line, fewer than 3, so they were down to 2, and immediately pulled, and James Naughton benefited by getting 2 13-meter frees that, even I would score, Matt. So, very interesting rule. I'm not sure do I fully agree with it. It has its merits, it has its flaws. What I did find is it kind of takes the sting out of the game. Limerick were actually on the attack, and the reason Clare brought players back is they were struggling to get the ball off Limerick. Limerick were struggling maybe to get the shot off, keeping ball slowly, and Clare then go down to two players in attack, and Limerick suddenly get a free, and it happened twice. And there was a couple of times maybe it wasn't pulled, or it wasn't, the players flirting with that centre line, as it is now a new line down the middle. It will take an awful lot of policing. And I would say,
and you're going to have managers, not cutting across you, Tom, you're going to have managers and players trying to find a way around these things.
Yeah.
That is the Irish instinct, for everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, it's basically, we have the rule now. How can we bend it?
Precisely.
Yeah. And what I would say, and I listening to some of the national discourse on podcasts and stuff since the weekend, they were obviously at other games, and it was pointed out that the supporters will now actually be watching different parts of the pitch. Normally, as a supporter, you watch the ball. Now people are going to be saying, "Oh, sure, Limerick are down to 3, or down to 3. Oh, now they're down to 2." And actually, it can turn into a bit of a panto because he's behind you. People are trying to tell the referee that the one team has infringed, and they want to free up the other end. It's interesting. And late in the game as well, the another rule, I suppose a lot of people I'm sure who follow Gaelic football will know, 50 meters to be conceded for descent it's a very, very new phenomenon, and it's something that players will, if they don't learn to get used to quickly, will suffer for it. Limerick suffered for it. It was a disputed line ball, I would say. Maybe that was what it was in the Clare half, near enough to Clare 45, probably between the Clare 45 and 65. The ball was given to Clare. A Limerick player remonstrated with the officials for a bit too long, and the ball was advanced 50 meters. Now, in Askeaton, it's probably not the longest football pitch in the world, 50 metres is a long way to be bringing the ball up there. And Emmett McMahon duly obliged by kicking the free over. Now, not only did he kick the free over, he got 2 points for it because it was outside the 40-metre arc. So, there's a very, very good example of where players probably need to learn to keep it zipped.
Well, I would be totally in agreement with that. Because I'd be totally in agreement with anything that heightens the respect of players, officials, and supporters. For heightens the respect for referees.
Yeah.
Because these guys are only doing a job, and they're doing a very, very difficult job. And in my opinion, I have yet to see one of them, that has deliberately done anything wrong. And I'm a long time watching it.
Yeah, that's true. And it was Jonathan Hayes of St. Enans who was refereeing the game. I know a bit of a peculiar one for a Limerick man to be refereeing it, but it was a challenge game after all. But it was he who brought the ball forward, and rightly so, because the Limerick player didn't relent in his protestations. So that's some of the rules. The kickouts, not being able to go back to the keeper has certainly changed the dynamic, because obviously before teams would have passed it slightly left and right, 10 or 15 metres, and then they would have a couple of hand passes and the keeper would have had the ball then again and he'd been coming out, but he can't get the ball inside, isn't it, his own 65, isn't it? I could be wrong with exactly where in the pitch, but he can't get the ball. So what you had at some stage, the keeper can't receive the ball pass.
That nonsense started in the Fitzgibbon Cup about 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, what I will say, this rule where the keeper is still allowed gallivant around the pitch. Now, I don't have a major issue with that, but what's going to end up happening is the goalkeeper is going to join in for the team with the ball, and they're going to keep possession. So could you envisage a situation in an All-Ireland quarter or semi-final or final indeed, where a good team, I'm going to use Dublin maybe as an example here, a good team at keeping the ball will bring their goalkeeper out. They will be we'll just say the Kerry half, and they'll keep the ball, because it's 12 versus 11. So it'll be very difficult for them to lose the ball. Not very difficult. It'll be hard for the opposition to take it off them. Of course, they can get it off them 12v11. You can, of course, but that's where the goalkeeper joining in the attack will come to fruition. Now, of course, if they lose it, it's 3-on-3 at the back. So we're going to see some mistakes in the league. I have no doubt about it, where teams try that and then the player slips or drops the ball or is turned over 1 or 2 passes and the ball might be inside in the net at the other end. So, the goalkeeper role is probably not changed too much, but over time it may evolve. And the other new rule matters the solo and go. Now, in fairness to Jonathan Hayes, he was explaining to the players how and when they could use it. His thing of you might be fouled coming out of the back, your jersey might be tugged back, whistle goes free to Limerick. You still have the ball in your hands. You can just solo and keep running, and you can't be tackled for a few steps, basically. It's to stop this cynical drag back and push, and to stop teams tactically fouling. Teams tactically fouling maybe a player coming out is probably where it'll be used most. And if you have a very good carrier of the ball who doesn't maybe need to kick a free, he just starts solo to himself and start running up the field and keep the attack going, or get the attack going with a bit of pace. That will certainly prove popular. I think once players get to know how to use it and when to use it, I think that will stay in the game. So it's early doors with it, but it'll be interesting to see how it evolves.
My serious worry about it is it'll be pretty easy enough, not very easy now, to police it at inter-county level, where you'll have probably 2 linesmen who are referees running the line.
Yeah.
What are we going to do at club level?
What I will say for
referees are under pressure to get 4 umpires in a lot of cases.
Yeah, what I will say at the lower tiers, and I know that because I'm playing it myself, the lower tiers of football in Limerick anyway, and in many counties, the 3-up will not be an issue. Teams are still playing a bit closer to the traditional than they were. Now, it's not to say that it doesn't happen, but teams are, there's very rarely you'd find in a junior game that there'll be 15 men in their own half, but I suppose it can happen. So you're right, the referee is expected to be watching, the ball might be in the top left corner of the pitch, and he might then be expected to have a look back.
There's 3.
and check is there three, and it's three for both teams. He doesn't look and see is there three green jerseys and three red and leave it at that. He's to check for three green and three red and see, is that and all while watching what's going on there. And you'll probably end up with a lot of remonstrating from sidelines when that's being breached, and then if the sidelines are remonstrating too much, is it a 50-meter penalty against them, because the sidelines can now be punished for that as well. So it will be interesting to see how those things evolve. And you're right to point that out. It is certainly one I'm sure that a lot of referees have concern about locally here in Limerick, and indeed in other counties, certainly when they go down the levels. Even at club games in Limerick, there has been no linesmen because there's so many games on and
so many games on. Like you take the situation that we had last year, Tom, and we've spoken about this ad nauseum. On a Thursday night, we had 6 senior county football championship matches on the one night.
Yeah.
That means that you have to mobilise. If you have to have a full complement, you have to mobilise 18 referees.
Yeah, and
24 matches of ladies football and all calling on referees.
Yeah. And in that day in particular, if you were to have a full complement of officials, and you don't need a fourth official, but you would have 18 referees, 6 referees and 12 linesmen or women, and then you'd want 24 umpires. Like, that's a lot to be expecting of a referee to organise of a Thursday or Friday night. Or look, it'll be interesting to see how they play out. And again, the FRC can recommend changes as the competition evolves through the league. But the jury is certainly out on a few of the changes, and we'll be interested to see how, as you say there, Matt, how counties will learn to manipulate them and learn to use them. And the one worry I have with the 2-point score, there was 3 of them scored in the Limerick game, 1 from Limerick and 2 from Clare, and the 2 from Clare were from frees. Now, of course, the way the competitions are now, we're not going to have the best and worst teams playing each other, but I can envisage the Leinster Championship, for example, Dublin playing at Croke Park against, I'm just going to say notionally, Wicklow, because they're in Division 4. Dublin will ruefully punish a team like Wicklow from distance because they have 6, 8, 9 players who are able to kick scores from 40 metres plus. You know what I mean? So Dublin will be able to recycle the ball. They'll be in complete control of the possession. They might even have 12v11 if they bring the goalkeeper up. And lo and behold, they'll be able to kick 2-pointers at will. And the gap in those sort of games which is already worryingly high at times, will get much, much wider. So it's of course it rewards the skill of kicking a long range point, but there's more to it than that. It could completely dwarf a game as well. If Paul Conroy, I think, kicked 4 of them for Galway at the weekend and won the game. Now there's probably merit in that. It's he took them on and he executed them. But it could certainly change the dynamic of the game. And will it devalue the goal? Potentially. I mean, kicking 2 scores from 42 meters or working a goal, I'd say teams will say we'll kick the two scores from distance. It's a lot easier than running the ball into the net, so we might see fewer goals, but the FRC think the advance mark will change that. But I don't know, we'll see how it plays out.
You're a member of the referees here in Limerick, as
just about.
Referee Tom, but a lot of the referees have advocated to me, a resolution for this thing of having teams of officials by having double headers. Where they could share. They could share. You'd have a referee and 2 linesmen, and you'd have the 4 umpires who would do both games, and you could have one of the linesmen doing the second game and the referee in the first game dropping out to being a linesman. To me, it makes an awful lot of sense. And it even makes an awful lot more sense now, in that there will have to be a greater level of policing in our local championships.
Yeah, but the only thing I see as well, and the other day, in fairness, it was Limerick officials. They worked very well. They were all mic'd up to each other. They were speaking with each other, speaking with the umpires. There was no miscommunication. When the ball was kicked for the point by Andrew Mead, Jonathan, I'm sure, was on his mic straight away to his umpire, and they were able to award the score with waving of the red or orange flag or whatever colour it is, signalling that. But if you drill this down to club level or county level, as it were, the officials won't have the facilities to be wired up for every game, even if you are in a position where you have 3. So how does a linesman in a Limerick intermediate football game bring it to the referee's attention that the team have 3 players, or fewer than 3 players in the attack. For example, he might be standing there with his flag up, bringing it to his attention, trying his best to call the referee, and then the ball is put into the net by the attacking team, even though they're maybe breaking a rule at the other end themselves. You know what I mean? So then you could end up with controversy galore. Now, look, that's one example I'm just thinking of on the fly here. But again, how will it play out? It's going to be a challenge, that's for sure. But look, we need to get the inter-county bit right first, and then work with the club lads and see how they go. And I know there's been a course or two delivered to club referees as well, so they haven't been forgotten in this. And then the FRC have met with county boards to try and address a lot of these things. But I wouldn't be too critical of any of the rules yet. It's just a case of a trial and error and see how they evolve. But I don't think anyone would disagree that football needed a bit of a shake-up. Now,
of course it needed a bit of a shake-up, yeah.
Did it need as much? Only time will tell. But
I would have been in favour of bringing these things in piecemeal.
Yeah.
Over maybe 2 or possibly 3 years.
Yeah. Look, so, and some of them, I think, like the solo and go is just going to work, I think, straight away. I don't think there's going to be any issue with that,
No.
But like the 2-pointer makes sense as well. But we could be, like, I can imagine the situation again in a big game, even in Croke Park, or a big club game where a fella had his toe on the whitewash, and is the referee given 1 or is he given 2? And it could be very, very controversial in time. Whereas, a bit like the square ball thing, you could be debating it forever. Like,
are we going to go down the road of needing VAR? Perish the thought.
GAR, as they say, GA referee. Anyway, back to Limerick footballers, Matt, just to run through some of the names that lined out. Fiachra Cotter, Ralph Leonard, Mark McCarthy, some of the new names, Adam Shanaher, over at Keele. You have Diarmuid Buckley, Tommy Childs. Okay, Tommy's back again for another year. Sean Clancy of Galtee Gales, Andrew Mead, Bob Childs, Tyg O'Shaughnessy, Dara.
No, Tyg O'Shaughnessy was a misprint. That should be Tyg O'Shukru.
Sorry, Tygo Shukru, yeah, sorry, that's right, yeah. James Naughton and John Hayes, that was the starting team. Then Ronan McGilligan of Mungret St. Paul's introduced for Jeffrey Alford at halftime. Cormac Wolfe, Jason Hassett, Tony McCarthy, Killian Ryan, Jack McCarthy, Dara Murray, Dara O'Hagan, Jamie Bainham, Killian Fahy, Peter Nash, and David O'Shaughnessy, Kyle Mullins, Mark McCarthy, and the return of Ian Corbett and Barry Coleman from the treatment table late enough in this contest as well. So a lot of names there. I know I've just flown through them there. Like, but
the 2 boys back, and great to see John Hayes back after an injury-plagued season again, unfortunately, from St. Kieran's. It was great to see him back and starting. And nice to see David O'Shaughnessy getting a run out as well, getting a debut. I'd say it was a debut for him.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, at this level, I know, unless they played a challenge game before Christmas that we're not aware of as well. But no, it's interesting. I suppose the thing for Jimmy is probably, and Danny Neville was there as well in the dugout carrying an injury as well. But I suppose Limerick need to find the winning formula in the league, Matt, that they haven't found for the last 2 seasons. And
that heightens the importance of the Longford game.
Tricky start.
The Wexford game. Now, interestingly, I read a piece as late as today that Wexford have only 1 player involved in the Fitzgibbon Cup.
Right, so 50% less than Limerick.
50% less than Limerick. Now, we're not joking with people in it either. But
no.
It's interesting,
Yeah, it is, and I suppose maybe Wexford probably not had the benefit of having a 3rd level institution in their own county, but that's involved in it. But yeah, that is interesting. Maybe the Wexford senior team, I'm not overly familiar with it. Maybe it's a much more seasoned group, might be a more mature group than lads involved in Sigerson. But even still, you might expect a few of younger lads who maybe not on the senior inter-county team that might be on Sigerson panel, but we might have expected the same in Limerick. Yeah, so look, very, very tricky start for Limerick to the league campaign, but it's a long time, Matt, since they won a league game. And
it's 2 seasons, and certainly, Jimmy has run the rule over anybody that's available, because all the players that you named out there, and I have the list here of those that featured against Clare last week, they all stood out. during the championship in Limerick. Pity we don't have Hugh Burke and Robbie. Paul Maher wasn't there either, I'd say, was he?
Paul Maher, I saw him at the venue, wasn't tagged. I saw you Burke doing a bit of a routine training exercise, but not lined out. But no, you and Paul certainly involved, I'd say, for the year ahead.
Yeah.
And, perhaps those
players.
Yeah, no, and the Dare lads, I guess. I know Jeffrey, the goalkeeper, played Jeffrey Alfred, but the other Dare lads probably just not, had gone deep, had obviously won the county and played a Munster club game. So, we've seen enough of them, as it were. So maybe it was a chance just to look at other options at this juncture. And those lads, I'm sure, will be all feeding back in to be ready now.
Another player that was missing but was there was Emmett Richter, a very important player as well.
Yeah, no, again, he was kicking the ball around as well at halftime. So, again, he has had a couple injury issues, I think, once or twice during the year. Am I wrong? I'm mixing up players here in the head. But, yeah, it's look, there's a lot of players there. It's just a case of, can Limerick find near the strongest 15 for that first game, give it a go, get the momentum back into the thing and get the wheel turning in the right direction. That's the...
And they're playing Laois at McNeville Park this weekend, and that'll be another test. At least they're playing teams at a level above them.
Division 3 teams there.
Yeah, that's the better way to get a test.
Yeah, that's it. And look, there's realistically, we're never going to play a team in Division 4 in a challenge game. Well, not never, but less likely to. But,
the scheduling hasn't been kind to Limerick in so far as that away to Longford isn't what you'd be hoping for.
No, probably not. No.
Because Longford would, they're yo-yo up and down between 2 and 3. Between 3 and 4. They have ambitions of their own. But we'll be talking about that in 2 weeks' time, Tom.
Yeah, okay. And finally, just to round out the podcast, Matt, just to mention the Sigerson, we've mentioned it enough there. University of Limerick will place ATU Galway. I think it's this evening, isn't it? Unless it's been postponed.
Friday evening.
Friday.
It was actually originally for this evening, but was brought forward to last evening. But now it's gone back and it's in Liam Mellows Ground in Galway.
Right.
All these games are on Friday night, and MTU and Cork, they go to Abbottstown. That was originally fixed for Abbottstown. They're playing ATU from Donegal. But UCC were to have home advantage against UCD last night.
Yeah.
But now I see, lo and behold, it is fixed for Fethard on Friday night.
Off the tip for them. The trip to tip. Okay, right. Okay, well, that's UL, and obviously UL's involvement. Darrow Hagan of Mungret St. Paul's, Cormac Wolfe of St. Senan's, and the manager is Declan Bruder of Newcastle West.
Declan Bruder, yes.
Newcastle West, yeah. So that's the Limerick connections with the UL panel for this year as they look to win what would be a first ever Sigerson crown. Okay, Matt, we've discussed plenty there with Jamie and indeed yourself over the last 80 odd minutes or 70 odd minutes even. Thanks very much for tuning in, folks. Happy New Year. All the best for 2025. We'll be chatting to you every week on Treaty Talk for the year ahead. So thanks very much for tuning in and talk to you again soon.
Likewise, Happy New Year, everybody.